crystal clear water, endless buffets, lounging by the pool on a giant cruise ship, and the sun setting over the horizon. Who doesn't want to cruise on such an ocean with all the luxury and relaxation of cruise ships exploring the unseen? Sounds like a perfect vacation, right? But what if I tell you this idyllic scene can turn into a nightmare scenario within a few seconds? With the appearance of a speedboat occupied by armed Somali pirates, things can change real fast. This is not some fantasy tale. Somali pirates continued to target cargo ships for years. And now, luxury cruise ships have become their prime target. And why wouldn't it be? These prized luxury cruise ships bring big money. Cruise ships bring wealthy passengers, luxury, valuable goods, and plenty of leverage. Can it get any better for pirates? And with that, a relaxing vacation doesn't remain that relaxing for the passengers. The history of piracy is long, and there have been various big and small Somali pirate attacks throughout the years, despite international efforts to curb them. But why are Somali pirates such a big threat? And why boarding a cruise ship is always equivalent to a high-stakes game of survival? Let's dive in. Vulnerability of cruise ships. Cruise ships are really floating palaces. You'd know if you have ever cruised on one. They would have everything to give thousands of passengers all the comfort and entertainment in the oceans. But what makes these cruise ships so vulnerable to piracy? Is it the massive size, or the heavenly luxurious goodness, or maybe both? Let's break it down. They are massive and feel more like small cities on the sea. It won't be wrong to call cruise ships floating cities. With impressive poolside lounging, comfort, entertainment, and everything. But this big size comes with an obvious downside. They are easy to spot. That's all. That's how the pirates find their way. Their massive size feels more like a giant billboard saying, "Valuable target here." Somali pirates are getting attracted to cruise ships like giant magnets pulling iron nails. They would cruise in fast-speed boats, recognizing the giants from miles away. This is not the only downside of being massive. Speed is another factor that makes cruise ships vulnerable. These ships are so big and glamorous that speeding is not even an option. They would, quite frankly, cruise at a leisurely pace. It might be quite perfect for relaxing and view sighting, but definitely not to outrun a bunch of psychotic pirates in high-powered boats. Speeding is everything in the tale of piracy, and unfortunately, our giants just can't keep up. Would it be wrong to say cruise ships have all the world's luxury? In my opinion, this won't be an overstatement. Rolex, Louis Vuitton, gemstones, you name it. No wonder pirates try to get their hands on these ships. There is security, but the boats are usually not equipped to handle heavily armed Somali pirates who have been looting for several years. The pirates know about the security system of cruise ships, and this is what gives them an edge. All those attractive elements of cruise ships aside, isolation is another big factor that makes them vulnerable to pirate attacks. How? Let's face it, cruise ships are meant to sail through remote areas, most of which are far from any signs of humans. There would be a distance of hundreds of miles from the nearest port or naval base. Pirates know when they attack, there won't be any backup for the ships. The ship's crew is on their own, and if they try informing the passengers, it will all be a mess. Calming thousands of passengers amidst pirate attacks is not easy. Still, all these traits are not enough to make a cruise ship completely vulnerable to an attack in the middle of nowhere. Pirates come with preparation and careful strategies, all while being heavily armed. Strategies of pirates. Cruise ships are huge. Then how exactly did these Somali pirates pull off their attacks? Somali pirates don't just come unprepared, and they're certainly not one or two in number. They always work as a part of a larger network, getting support from organized crime. They move like any world-class business, having informants, logistical support, and financial banking. Pirates come in speedboats. They are faster than you think. Their boats are equipped with powerful outboard motors that allow them to close the distance with a cruise in almost no time. They are so quick that by the time the ship crew spots them, it's too late to react. Small pistols are out of the question when the attack is meant to be on a big cruise ship. Somali pirates come equipped with rocket-propelled grenades and automatic rifles. They may or may not use these, but the arsenal already gives them a psychological advantage. Getting around the cruise is not that hard. The real problem is boarding the ship, and that is made easier with hooks and ladders. You might wonder if it can be risky. It is indeed, but not for Somali pirates. The efficiency, training, and practice make it all a piece of cake for them. The interesting fact is that pirates don't attack only at night. That is rather a misconception. Somali pirates are so used to their work that they would prefer daylight for such crimes. The conditions tend to be more calm during the day. And the environment? More predictable. It would be easier for them to strike during the day without any interference. So, how do cruise ships ensure that such incidents don't happen anymore? Many measures have been taken to rectify these errors. Let's have a look. Preventive measures, taken by cruise ships to avoid pirate attacks. We all know that prevention is better than cure, isn't it? Experiences of the past, and adhering to this golden rule, cruise ships have taken measures to prevent pirate attacks of any kind. Knowing the dangers to passengers, cargo, and global trade, cruise lines prioritize maritime safety. For what? To ensure the well-being of rich passengers and to keep international commerce flowing smoothly. Here, attention to detail is a very common job requirement. Hence, it may not come as a surprise that situational awareness is one of the most trusted weapons that cruise liners can harness to prevent pirate attacks. To help with this, modern technologies such as radar and sonar technologies are utilized to monitor vessel traffic. Crew members are also trained to keep an eye out for any activity that may be deemed suspicious. This vigilance complements the other defense mechanisms in place, as communication is key to making any response to a potential threat effective. It is certainly true, but to what extent? For cruise ships, the communication system needs to be stellar. The cruise line should be able to communicate with regional and international maritime organizations to get information in real time. Men with guns not only look good, but can also be useful when stuck in a pickle with pirates. Having armed professionals on board is a great measure to increase safety and ensure the protection of passengers, crew, and goods. But that's not all. Changing course or speed is another tactic that the cruise ships use to avoid the pirates. You heard it right. This is to throw any unsavory characters off the trail. Changing course may confuse the attackers or give the cruise liner enough time to reach a safe zone. Speaking of safe zones, cruise liners also create secure zones within the vessels. Measures have been taken to make the ship itself secure, such as hardened doors and windows. Anti-boarding measures that include razor wire or electric fences prevent the entry of pirates on board. Cruise ships employ water cannons as defense, which can cause serious injury or even death if the boats are too close. The latest tool that is used to deter the pirate boats from getting too close is the P-trap. What is a P-trap, you may ask? It consists of two long rods on both sides of the ship, each with several ropes attached to it. The ropes can disable a pirate boat and prevent it from getting close to the ship. Human cost of piracy. Piracy doesn't only result in economic loss. With pirate attacks, there's a very real human cost too. The image of piracy in our minds is so romanticized that we don't consider there are layers to it, and that it's something far darker. Indeed, Ships and cargo are the primary targets for pirates, but humans, they are not safe either. It'd be better to say that everything, whether living or non-living, is at risk during pirate attacks. But what happens during the pirate attacks that put everything at risk? Chaos, it is the first thing. Aggression, the second, followed by gunshots, gunfire, shouting orders, and a storm of bullets. Isn't it enough to tell what a life-or-death situation develops on the ship? Hostages are taken along in an instant, and nobody knows if they will get out alive. That's not it. There is emotional trauma for everyone, passengers and crew members alike. The memory of the attack stays with everyone for life, for it is not something that can be shaken off after a few days. While cargo and luxury goods have their value, Somali pirates benefit more from hostages. And with all the wealthy passengers on board, it's certainly a win-win situation for pirates. Having intense control over the passengers, the pirates put forward their demand for ransom. And trust me when I say the amount is staggering, reaching millions of dollars. Pirates know where the deep pockets are, and they count on that to get what they want. After all, they are pirates for a reason. This high-pressure situation results in human lives hanging in the balance. To handle that, cruise lines bring in experts to buy time and ensure the safety of hostages. But this is business for the pirates, their source of income that also funds their entire supporting network. The game is risky, but this lucrative enterprise keeps attracting the pirates. Now, the next time you hear headlines about a pirate attack, you will know it comes with stress, fear, and trauma, and if the ransom is not paid, it may even come with death. Case studies of pirate attacks on cruise ships. Saturday mornings are for staying in bed, and when you're on a cruise, you don't expect to be woken up at the crack of dawn. But that wasn't the case for the passengers of Seabourn Spirit that fateful Saturday in November of 2005. The unfortunate souls aboard the cruise line were quite rudely woken from their slumber at 5:30 a.m. to the sounds of gunshots and grenades. Thankfully, none of the 151 passengers aboard the cruise line were injured due to the quick thinking of the crew, who quite bravely outsmarted the assailants and outran the two boats of the assailants. You might have already figured out the identity of the mystery assailants. The coast of Somalia has been terrorized by pirates for quite some time. These pirates often attacked cargo ships and ships carrying humanitarian aid to the downtrodden region. But this attack was different because it was a very rare and, quite frankly, stupendously brave attack on a luxury leisure vessel. Apart from the deviation in the type of sea vessel they chose to attack, the methodology of the attack was similar to all the other attacks. Two 25-foot boats carrying 4 to 5 pirates each approached the vessel. Rocket-propelled grenades and machine guns were fired at the cruise liner. 3 rocket-propelled grenades hit the ship, one in a stateroom. The pirates tried their level best to get on board and hijack the ship, but were unable to succeed in their nefarious plans due to the quick thinking of the crew and its Norwegian captain. The crew and captain were praised by the industry officials for their bravery and competence. However, the pirates sailed a bit too close for comfort, and that was a chilling thought. Other instances of pirate attacks on cruise ships include a minor attack on the 600-foot-long MS Nautica on the Gulf of Aden. The attack was minor, but still a surprise. It was described as cheeky by sources aboard the vessel, international efforts to fight piracy. After the golden age of piracy, the Somali pirates came out as an intense threat to world peace. It also came as a wake-up call for the world. Humans and ships were being held for ransom, cruise ships were getting hijacked, and most importantly, the safety of international waters was under threat. You might wonder, why countries not deploy naval forces to combat the pirates? Well, it's not that straightforward. It's a complex fight that requires the involvement of multiple countries, if not superpowers, peace organizations, and smart strategies. The UN Security Council plays an important role in this fight against barbarism. It has delineated piracy in the Gulf of Guinea, describing it as a threat to international peace. And to overcome that, the UN Security Council has adopted a militarized approach since 2011. Though it resulted in a decline in threat levels, the Gulf of Guinea is still considered a threatened region, describing the need to include non-kinetic measures. Several countries from around the world, the UK, the US, and some members of the European Union, contributed their naval ships to patrol high-risk areas. They are meant to serve two purposes: to prevent the pirates from making any move and to take prompt action against any attacks. These naval forces remained successful in deterring various pirate attacks and combating many others. The most important lesson learned was by the cruise ships. They knew that their business of billions of dollars would sink in without strict security measures, so they took action and implemented high security all around the ship at all times. The most interesting part is the installment of citadels in the cruise ships. They are secure areas on board where passengers and crew member can run away in case of pirate attacks. That's not it. Countries actively took actions against the companies that paid ransom. And since pirates are motivated by money and money only, piracy has become a less profitable business for these looters. The Somali pirates would now be running a business from which nobody buys. Let's face it, the sole reason behind piracy was not greed. It's the political instability in Somalia that leads to poverty and unemployment. Accept it or not, poverty and unemployment are the driving factors that force young men into piracy. And since it looks lucrative from a distance, more and more youth find it as an alternative to employment. Fortunately, the international community understands the root cause, and it has started investing in aid programs to help the people of Somalia by offering better livelihoods. But for how long is that going to last? Are international communities really that considerate? Let me know your opinions in the comments section below. Is the piracy threat over? Piracy has been a constant threat for many centuries. In an ideal world, the days of pirates and their reign of terror would have long passed. But the reality is a bit more somber than the ideal we have. Global piracy rates in the modern world were at an all-time high during the 1990s and the 2010s. Many measures were taken to combat the threat of pirates, and after reaching a record high in 2010 and 2011, the piracy rates reached an all-time low in 2019. However, these pirates are not to be taken lightly. In recent years, they have been back on their feet, causing mayhem again. Global piracy increased by 4% in 2023 compared to 2022, according to the IMB PRC. This may not seem much, but a closer look shows that these numbers have an alarming trend. The latest successful hijacking of a vessel on the coast of Somalia was reported in 2023, keeping in mind that before this, the last successful hijacking was reported in 2017. In the first 3 months of 2024, 2 successful hijacking incidents have been reported in the Western Indian Ocean. So, to answer your question, is the piracy threat over? No, the piracy threat is very much not over. It is still a problem as it was before. Their methods might have changed, but the intention and need to cause trouble has not. Now let's have a look at the history of piracy. When we think of pirates, wooden ships, roaring cannons, and maps with big red X marking the spot is all that comes to our mind. Certainly the movies had us all believe that piracy and pirates are swashbuckling, when in reality it's the total opposite. Piracy is all about greed, desperation, and constant efforts for power on the high seas. And with that, piracy has a very long history. As long as there have been trade routes, there have been pirates. They would attack ships and coastal towns and would always be on the lookout for goods and valuables to steal and people to ransom. You must be wondering where it all started and what the initial targets of pirates were. Piracy became an issue of concern in ancient Greece and Rome. During those times, it was all about attacking ships to capture people for ransom and to steal cargo. Since there was no naval force to keep them in check, piracy was widespread. The condition remained similar in the Middle Ages too, with the Mediterranean being a hub spot. It was a time of the infamous Barbary pirates based in North Africa who took piracy to a whole new level. They would stay wide awake for several days, waiting for European ships to arrive. And when they did, those pirates would seize entire towns along the coast. These pirates were bold, brutal, and had the backing of powerful local rulers. They remained the stuff of nightmares for sailors for the years to come, until piracy spread to the New World, affecting the Caribbean. This place turned out to be a total paradise for pirates with its hidden coves and islands, where they could stash all their loot, and it wouldn't be wrong to say that it was the golden age of piracy. But what makes the golden age so golden? Is that the wealth flowing from the Americas to Europe? Certainly. Spanish galleons after galleons would come loaded with gold and silver. Why wouldn't pirates, driven by all their greed, attack them? They would waste no time when encountering one of those and immediately seize the opportunity. It was indeed a dangerous game of cat and mouse. Eventually, the European powers had enough of the pirates, so they started a massive campaign to crush piracy in the Atlantic. By the early 18th century, the Golden Age was already over. You must be wondering about the consequences of one-eyed armored looters. They were captured, tied, and hanged. It was the end of an era. But piracy, in its true meaning, never truly died. It just moved to different parts of the world, making its way to the Mediterranean after the weakening of Turkish rule. This ended up in the virtual independence of the Barbary states of North Africa. And the result? Countries like Algiers, Tunis, Morocco, and Tripoli started organizing piracy, so much so that they came to be called pirate states. But it didn't continue for a long time. The successive actions of British, American, and French forces led down these pirate states in about the 19th century. Today, piracy has evolved. There are no more wooden ships and cutlasses, but there are now speedboats, GPS, and more sophisticated weapons. More recently, Somali pirates have gained notoriety in piracy, but they are still just one chapter in a long history of piracy. While we look into the rise of Somali pirates, remember that they are part of a much larger tale, a tale that spans centuries and oceans, the rise of Somali piracy. It all began with a major instability in Somalia. With its internal conflicts, it was designated as a failed state. The situation was not that bad in the beginning. The federal government of Somalia was established and tried to maintain its authority. But the intervention of foreign forces didn't allow it to last longer. Somalia was characterized as a fragile state later that had no effective government policies. It started with foreign fishing boats, threatening the livelihood of local fishing communities. They would use small boats, holding vessels and crew for ransom. This situation was unbearable, but with political instability and poverty, there was nothing that could be done. Instead of making a way out of this situation, many Somali youth saw it as an opportunity to make money. But was it that simple to get into piracy? Well, it might be. But international organizations took things into their own hands, showing concern over the situation and starting campaigns against the pirates. Meanwhile, there was another group, believing that elements within Somalia are responsible for this crisis, their reasoning, political influence, and financial gain. What is your opinion on this? Were the pirates themselves the core problems? Or do the true crises stem from the deeper politics within the country? With that, today's video comes to an end. What's your take on Somali pirates attacking luxury cruise ships? Is it just a handful of rogue pirates, or do they have a whole network backing them? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe and hit the like button. Until next time.